Well, first of all, this has been a long process.
Come closer.
Closer to the mic.
Okay. This has been a long process, and I want to tell a few stories. One of them is there's this player I met several years ago, and he had been having physical troubles. The doctor said he couldn't play and do anything. It was in question whether he could even walk. And so,
Albert, we still can't hear. Can you raise that pole?
Here, you need help?
It's a Jamie height right now. So.
We need Albert's height.
Yeah.
oh, there you go. More volume.
There we go.
All right, so the story is this particular player, they said he probably wouldn't be able to walk. And so one day he was trying to do some rehab at the YMCA, and he heard this sound down on those courts. So he went to see what it was, and of course it was pickleball. So a year later, he was actually out there playing. And then about 3 or 4 years later, he was an advanced player. And so he gives pickleball a credit to his recovery. Now, this isn't just the only story. There are many other stories about the health and benefits of pickleball, health and mental. The other story I want to talk about was Commissioner Don Martin. He actually came out here and played, and he said he had only played a little bit, so we came out, and Maura was out there, and we're giving him instructions. You're doing the soft things around, and we did this for about 5 or 10 minutes, and said, okay, well, let's play a game. So we get out there, and within a minute or two, Don Martin's hitting bullets. I wait a minute, this is a ringer here. But it was amazing, but we really enjoyed it. I'm sure he enjoyed playing it, and it was a lot of fun. What I want to do is I want to give you kind of a little bit of an overview of things. In 2019, the big center was the YWCA as far as pickleball is concerned. Everything, there's people that came in from all over the country that came and played there, and there wasn't really any outdoor courts at that point. But the surrounding counties were starting to develop them. So we were kind of fat, dumb, and happy just being there and complacent. So then they closed down because they sold the building to the church. And so we had to, at that point, start scrambling, and we went out and started doing things, and then COVID hit, and it shut that down. And finally, in May, I heard that they were playing at this place called Moser Park in Louisville. So I've known Mike and played with him off and on for years. So we came out, and of course, there was some court lines there using the tennis net. But, that wasn't enough, so we brought chalk out, and then chalk doesn't work because when it rains, it disappears. So we finally said, okay, let's try masking tape. We tried masking tape. Within 2 days or so, somebody had pulled it up and thrown it in the trash can. And it was some tennis player. So Mike said, wait a minute, okay, enough of that. So he said, okay, I'm going to go find out who's responsible. It's as far as maybe let's paint some lines. See, top is Chris Weevil. And here's a person that you need to say thank you to. He's been so supportive of everything we've done.
Hey, Chris. Thank you, Chris.
And so he said, they would pay for all the materials necessary to paint as long as we provided the expert labor. Well, we didn't quite get it right, but it was close. Well, thanks to Joe Piles, he kind of got us in line to where it should be. Okay, now, one of the things that I kind of look at it from an overall standpoint, it was actually close to 60 courts now, because there was other courts that we've done, that we've converted the tennis courts to dual use over the last 3 years. So that's kind of like one level of effort that occurred, okay? And of course, when I call him Mike, he's the pickleball guru as far as painting courts.
Lineman number one.
He's a lineman. He's the crew chief that has done all this stuff. And you don't see him on any names anywhere on boards or anything, but he's the man. And another person is Laura to say. It was really interesting. Laura came, I met her in 2020. We were out here playing. And of course, the federal government decided to dump some money in the city and the county as far as like an economic relief thing. And so one day she phones me in the morning, like 9 or 10 a.m., and she says, hey, the city's having these hearings and the county's having hearings, and they want to have some inputs where to spend this money. And she said, you need to talk at this thing. It's supposed to be this afternoon. And I said, no. And so she got up and she did a great job doing her presentation to the city. But I was ready for the next one. So it was like a week or two later, the county had theirs. And so I've been dealing with contracts for several decades. And so I said, okay, I put my contractor's hat on. Okay, what is needed? The who, why, when, where, what, the cost of it, and what's the benefits and credibility. Right off the top, we need to put that right in there and give some pictures so they can grasp it. Because they got 40 or 50 groups they're listening to. So they need it quick and everything right there. So that was the beginning of this effort over the next 3 years, where we went and we did all this research. And Gary Hillman was the focal point for that. And everything was fed through him, and he's done a great job doing that. And we've looked all over the place, all over the websites, all over the country, pulled in pictures, data. We've talked to people from Statesville. They gave us data. We have people that have come in here today, like Don Griffin. He's one of several of the people that come from outlying area just to come to play here. He was playing here when we had the chalk lines. But that's the kind of atmosphere that we've created here, and it's been great. So that effort was all there. So one was painting all the lines, and the other one was creating all dedicated courts. One of the questions that came up early was credibility. How do we know that pickleball is a big sport? Well, you see all the things that are going around surrounding counties where we're putting in dedicated courts. And it's got CBS has, or ESPN, they have live matches, they have pro matches, it's all there. But how do you know locally whether or not there's a demand? Once you put the painted courts in, and here's a good example. We painted a set of courts in the city. There was 4 tennis courts, and we converted it to 8 pickleball courts. So after we did that, after about a month, I went out there at night, and I got out in the courts, and all 8 courts were being used. And I met and I know a lot of the pickleball players, but most of those players I had never seen before. And I knew then that there's a demand. You build it, and they'll come. And that was great. So one of the things that we talk about is team reach. In 2020, one of the things that was happening is we were doing all these text messages and driving everybody crazy as far as organizing play. So we tried various things, and finally, thanks to Glenn Moore said, hey, there's this tennis program called Team Reach that they used to organize with. So I said, okay, so I started it in the fall of that year, and Jamie's numbers are really low. She said 1,000, okay? In the surrounding areas, there's about 3,000 players on those lists now. And that's not just here. Down in South Carolina, there's 3,000 players down in that area that are doing the same thing using Team Reach. So, but that was, as far as the credibility was concerned, was if you got the courts now and people are coming to them, it demonstrates there's a demand. And that was important. And so was the development of the club, the use of Team Reach. That was all important as far as getting where we are today and beyond that. One of the things that happened early, so we went out to Tanglewood Park. We were out there measuring. By the way, the hard courts at Tanglewood Park are short. They're not 60 feet wide. They're 56 feet wide. And the clay courts are they're 72 feet wide rather than 60. But anyway, so we're out there, and we were saying, how many courts can we put in here? So we measured it out, and I said, you could put 12 courts in here. Using the same footprint as the clay courts, but, converting it entirely. So then I said, well, we could also put 12 on the other one. and Mike said, no, wait. Come on now, let's scale this down. Let's keep it in reason here. And so I've been to 4 or 5 national tournaments. I've been to the Little League World Series, 3 different ones. And there's such an atmosphere is created when you go to these major events. The one I went to Albuquerque had over 2,000 players in there. And I saw the biggest bracket ever. There was 83 teams in one bracket. 83 teams. And so my vision, as far as this area is concerned, is why can't we have some? Of course, they had 60 courts there. But I've been to a regional tournament in Georgia, and there was 24 courts there. Well, we have over 24 dedicated courts here now, and it can be done. So that was the vision. Is you always have to have the vision at the far end. What can you do? And it's all because all of you is made possible. Thank you.